Well, it is always a good day when you can have a cigar in good company, and I have got some great company. It's Jeff Porcewitz, Florida Sun Grown Farms in Clermont, Florida. My man, thanks for having us out here.
Jim, thanks for coming down and making the trip to the farm. We love having visitors.
I mean, you walk in, my man puts a cigar in my hand. What am I smoking here?
So these are old vintage prototype samples of the first FSG cigars that Drew Estate made. I pulled them out especially for us. They haven't been, man, this was like 7 or 8 years ago. So I just wanted to go down memory lane. And
what were you doing 7 or 8 years ago? What were you doing 7 or 8 years ago?
Growing tobacco.
Oh, my, yeah, I bet. So that brings me to the question. What is a Chicago guy from the mean streets down there to Green River St. Patrick's Day? What is the guy from Chicago doing in the middle of Florida growing tobacco?
Well, my dad had the foresight to come down to the wonderful state of Florida, so I thank him every day. And we're down here selling cigars and growing tobacco.
Now, this is really, you are literally one of a kind. Nobody else does this in Florida.
No, but the history of Florida tobacco has been there. We're definitely not the first to do it. It's been around for 150 years. They used to have well over 1,000 acres of tobacco growing in Florida, but it was hard for them to compete against Central America. The last crop was grown in 1977, but I always say a tobacco plant has no idea what year it's in, whether it's in 1877 or 1977. If they could do it then, we could do it now. So we did this project to bring it back.
Jimmy Carter was president the last time they were growing tobacco in Florida. Did people think you were nuts when you said, guess you know what I'm going to do?
Of course.
I'm going to grow tobacco in Florida.
Yeah, they thought I was crazy because honestly, they're right. Because you cannot grow tobacco in Florida as a commercial interest. If you're trying to grow tobacco and turn a profit, it's not going to work. But that's not what our motive was. Our motive was to bring back something special, something that Jimmy Carter would have been able to smoke, but we couldn't. Well, now we can.
I love it. I love it. And I hear this barn behind here is where all the magic happens.
It is.
All right, let's go see some magic. All right, so let's begin at the beginning. We're inside the barn. Now, the barn needs a name. I'm going to say Tobacco Brenda.
Okay, so we're inside Tobacco Brenda. We've never named this barn, by the way, but today it's Tobacco Brenda.
History has been made.
So we have one big barn at the FSG farm, and our goal is to fill it up every year. So the way it works is when you grow tobacco, tobacco grows sort of like a Christmas tree. Okay. So the seed variety we use, which is a Cuban Corojo 99. So it's sort of at the bottom, the leaves are big. The top, they'll be small. So that's why you have to go through the field and do your primings. You pick the bottom leaves first, work your way up. So the way we keep track of that is we fill the barn from this right side bay. That's where the first primings go. And each week you do a pass through the field. So the second week, which would be the second primings, go in this section. And what we're going to see over here are the third primings. So the third primings begin right here. You can see that we've already packed the first and second primings. So these third primings that go all the way down to the end of the barn. And then from the other side, you're going to have your fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh primings. Now the leaves, as the plant grows, as you get to the top, those are the Ligero leaves. They're a little bit smaller, but they're much thicker and much stronger. The bottom leaves are larger. We tend to get our wrapper from the first and second primings. And I'll show you how this is done.
Let's take a look over here. So what do we got here? Are these good to go?
So when we bring tobacco into the barn, it's a big green leaf, okay? So what you have to do, it goes through what's called a curing process. And all the cigar tobacco is air cured, meaning it's naturally ventilated, and we don't have to use any heaters like that. The process we try to do is a slow process. It'll stay in the barn generally for about 90 days. And what we're trying to do is slowly take that leaf and turn it from a green leaf to a brown leaf, and where that stem is totally dry. So when you look at the stem, you won't have any green on it. This is ready to go.
Yeah.
So the tobacco, when we pack it, it has to be moist. So we'll do that in the morning when the humidity is high and you can actually handle the leaves without breaking them.
That would be what I was going to ask you about, because we're in Florida. We're in Central Florida. You know, how much of that day is broken down? In other words, because there are times where it's not humid and there are times where it is humid.
So what happens is generally in the summertime, it's nice and humid. We grow 2 crops. We grow a spring crop and a fall crop. What happens is as the day progresses, it gets a little bit drier. Usually by noon, we have to stop packing tobacco. In the morning, humidity will be about 90%. So you can actually move it. It's pliable. You can stretch it. And I'll show you how we pack it.
All right, let's see it. Packing time. This looks like Christmas morning.
Yeah, that's tobacco ready to go. So what happens, somebody's got to grab all the sticks. We bring them down from the rafters in the barn, and we set them up on these racks. And if this tobacco was moist enough where I could pull it together, you're going to pull them all together into a hand, and you're going to take that and you're going to set them inside the box. We will gently pack them down, and generally like to make about 100 pounds per carton. So this will be ready to go. This tobacco is fully cured, and we keep track of whether it's first, second, third, fourth, or fifth primings. So everything there's a method to the madness.
Now, can you take one of those sticks off of there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at this thing.
Yeah, generally we grab them, they're ready to go.
Oh my goodness, this
right?
thing.
That's the goodness right there.
And there it is. It's a little crispy. So we wait
because we're in the afternoon
yeah.
and we've had a cold front that came through. So whenever a cold front comes, humidity drops down. So we will not pack tobacco for the next probably week.
Oh, wow.
But once you start getting those warm summer type of days, humidity comes up, we'll start packing the tobacco.
All right. So my next question is, how do we get those leaves on this stick? How do we do that?
I'll show you.
Let's go.
So we cut the tobacco in the field using, again, those primings. So they come in big plastic totes. And let me tell you, the journey of tobacco is a very delicate journey.
Yeah.
It's all picked by hand, and we really spend a lot of time making sure you don't do something like put your thumb through a leaf or break the stem of a leaf.
See, I would imagine that's got to be something. It is such a skilled, not even labor, it's a skilled art, because, I mean, a guy like me with my fat fingers, it'd be wholly leaves and it wouldn't work.
No, we would teach you how to do it right. So here's the thing. Everybody that works in the farm, we let them know the end product. Mm-hmm. So once you understand how a cigar is made, you understand what you're trying to do in the field. And it's really important. The outside of the tobacco is a wrapper. Wrapper tobacco has to be a perfect leaf. No holes, no stains, no cracks. So they understand our goal is to grow wrapper, because what happens is you get about 25% yield of wrapper, because not every leaf, especially when you get to the top, they get too thick and too not pliable enough, but that makes excellent filler.
Right.
But you train the staff that you're shooting for wrapper, so you handle everything like it's a wrapper leaf, which means you hand it delicately. So when that tobacco comes in, they're going to bring them in totes and they're going to set them on these tables. Right here. So you'll have piles of green leaves that are already, they're laid out like sheets of paper. And these machines, these are antiques. We brought these down from Connecticut.
Vintage.
Well, these are made back in the 50s and 40s.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they're made in Austria. And I'm sorry, they're made in Switzerland. They're the same guys that make the nice watches, right?
Right.
So up in Connecticut, where they grew shade tobacco for a long time, they had to do it the same way. Pick it leaf by leaf, sow it leaf by leaf. So basically, I'll just show you how this is done.
Yeah, because this is something else that requires some legitimate skill, because I see needles there. I see. Does this thing move?
Yes.
All right, let's take a look. I'm gonna back away
so this machine, what was interesting is we had to figure it out. You have to be sort of a mechanic in order to do this, because they're old, and they're meant to be serviced, and they do break down. So you need to know how to fix them.
And there isn't a 1-800.
No, that's the problem. There is no 1-800 number to fix my tobacco machine.
Right.
So we had to figure that stuff out. So that was a real challenge. They tried bringing these machines down to Central America to do this stuff. They could never figure out how to make them work and how to fix them. But fortunately, I have a mechanical background, so if you're going to have a farm, you need to be a mechanic.
Seriously, you got to wear a lot of hats, right?
Yes. So I'll show you the way it works.
All right, let's make it happen.
Basically,
I'm going to get out of your way.
These sticks or lathes, whatever you want to call them, they're probably about 50, 60 years old. Came straight from Connecticut, which, by the way, we made a really awesome humidor out of these. I'll show you when you get to the shop.
You made a humidor out of that?
We made Daniel Marshall made 10 special humidors out of these old sticks. I like to say every one of them has character. So we put it up here, and if you had tobacco leaves, you're going to turn this machine on, and basically it's a chain that drives this. And if you want to get a good view of it, there's a needle that comes through here that essentially will push your leaves over that needle, and that needle will put them on the string. But you got to be real careful. This machine bites.
Right, because it's a needle.
It's a needle. So as you hook up your string, you put this down, and every one of these little blocks here represents 2 leaves that need to come down. So when we're sewing this is it's a skilled position in order to do this. There's a lot of timing involved, and you got to make sure if you get late, you can easily stick your finger into that needle and have your needle coming down the string, which we don't want. So once you get 48 leaves in here, they'll cut the string off. Pull it tight. You pull it tight and you'll have all your leaves on there, and you just tie it off. And when you're done,
voila,
you'll have that. So that's how it works.
This turns into this.
That's right.
Love it. Love it. All right, Jeff. Whew. All this hard work, man. Okay, I'm enjoying this cigar, but I know it takes a lot of work. This is the finished product.
Correct.
104 pounds, 104.5.
Correct. So once we've packed it down, we press it gently. And I use the word gently because remember, you don't want to damage those leaves. And this is what you end up with. This tobacco is ready to go into the container where it'll get inspected by the USDA and get it shipped out to Nicaragua.
And I can feel the moisture.
You can feel moisture in this one because we've got, once it's been in the box closed up, it'll hold some of that. And the good thing is once you get, you can actually pull some of these. They're still a little dry because of today's humidity. But especially if we dig in here.
Those things are jammed in there, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a nice leaf that we can pull apart. So we like that size. And this will go ready to the factory. We can stretch it a little bit if it's not too, there's enough humidity and oil. See how it turns like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's got that nice little shine to it.
That's how you get wrapper.
Oh, and that is the wrapper.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Because we have no holes in it. It looks good and clean.
The perfect leaf.
Right. That's what we're looking for. Leaves that don't have holes in it. Nobody's finger went through it. No bug had a snack on it. It's ready to go.
I mean, how much problems do you have with bugs? I would imagine
Florida,
that's the part.
What's interesting, we grow 2 crops, right?
Yeah.
In the fall, you don't have as much bug pressure. In the spring, you do. So we learned real quick, grasshoppers love our tobacco. Feel this leaf, pull it apart, and you'll feel how it's sticky on your fingers underneath.
Yeah, it is. Okay? Yeah.
That's the oils. That's what you want. That's what gives the tobacco a lot of aroma and flavor. And as you can see, this has a lot of elasticity. Yeah. This is a perfect wrapper leaf. Okay, so we can stretch it, and you'll get that shine on it.
Look at this leaf here. Yep. Look at this leaf.
So this is a wrapper leaf. That's what we're shooting for. Now remember, these are coming from our first and second primings. Your wrapper comes from the lower primings because they're a little thinner and more pliable.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at those leaves. Look at those veins. Look at that.
Even better, smell it. Get a.
Are you kidding me?
Get a whiff of that. Right?
That is a good day in the morning right now.
You need.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to just make sure this. I'm going to have to take this with me, Jeff. Just to make sure.
We'll have to adjust the weight on the box.
This would be a good little cell phone cover, maybe. Put a little sandwich in there. Maybe I'll take it with me. Oh, this is great.
You can take that one. That's your souvenir leaf. All right? You roll a cigar with that later.
Mama, I made it. All right, so the process continues here at Florida Sun Grown. So, Jeff, how long does it take? I mean, we went through the picking, we went through the packing and everything. How long does it take to get into here, which is the shipping container?
Well, if you look at the whole process from the time you start a seed until the time we're done, you got about a 6-month process because it takes about 60 days just to get the tobacco from a seed to a seedling to plant it into the field. Then once it's in the field, it takes about another 60 days before you start doing your very first primings. Mm-hmm. From there, it's going to be in the barn for at least 60 to 90 days going through the curing process.
I mean, patience. You got to have patience.
It's part of it.
This is not a millennial job.
No.
All right, so the shipping container. This is unbelievable what's in here.
All right, ready?
Ready. Oh, yeah.
All right, I wish you had smell-o-vision.
Oh, because
this is really where you can smell the aroma of the Florida Sun-Grown tobacco. So this is, we do 2 crops. So this will be the spring crop of last year. And right now, that fall crop is in the curing barn.
Okay.
So that's going to get packed, and it's going to put in this container. This container will get inspected by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and then will get exported to Nicaragua.
All right. So this is done and ready to go.
So this is another example of most of the cartons. You'll see the weights right on. That's a 90-pound carton.
Mm-hmm.
This one's probably 100 pounds. But this tobacco is our spring crop, and this is from the top. Remember, we keep track of how that tobacco, the different primings.
Right, right.
And when we talked about different primings, you'll see these are what we call the Corona leaves. You'll see they're real dark, real thick. This is going to be a very powerful tobacco. Makes great filler.
Great filler. Yeah, look at it. I just want to. I already got a wrapper, so I think I'm just going to snap these with me.
You can. You roll that up.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that, my friend. Ready to go. Now, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. And I'm not talking about me. These guys. What is happening with these? I mean, the smell is amazing, Jeff.
So we do a lot of single barrel bourbons for our cigar bars. So what it is, we bring we get the barrels that the bourbon was in. These single barrels we have packed with Florida sun-grown tobacco. We'll let them age for a year or two, maybe 3, and we actually make the Florida sun-grown farm rolls with that. That uses tobacco binder, wrapper, filler, only from the farm. It's cured, aged, but no fermentation. So it gives you that real sense of that rawness of what that tobacco tastes like right off the farm.
All right, so let's talk a little X's and O's here. This barrel's unbelievable. All right, the farm. When did it open?
2013 is when we did our first crop. It was a test crop, by the way.
Right.
We planted just a few acres of it to see what kind of, and actually the first crop we did, we kind of grew it wild. When I say wild, we planted the plants and left them alone because we wanted to see what kind of pressures we had to deal with. What kind of bugs like to eat the tobacco?
Yeah.
Was there any problems that we had, like any disease, that there's something called black shank, blue mold, things like that. So we let it grow and we had to see what kind of pressures we had to deal with. Funny part is, you know what the biggest thing we found out?
What?
Grasshoppers love our tobacco. So we had to learn how to work the grasshoppers out of the fields, but we got that down.
You see the grasshopper out there lighting a cigar and saying,
yeah.
Jeff, this is good. Keep them coming, Jeff. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
All right. So how many acres do we have here?
So the farm is 20 acres total. We grow on 2 plots though.
Okay.
We've used to grow 10 acres at a time. So you'd have a big crop on both sides. But again, we had too many problems with hurricanes and hail. So by dividing it up, 2 crops, a spring and a fall, kind of helped us out, work around those issues.
Go into that a little bit, because obviously in the spring, you deal with rain and hail.
Hail, yes.
Okay, and in the fall?
In the fall, you got hurricanes.
So that's why you do it that way, so that way you don't...
In case we lose it. Right. Because what happens, let's say in the spring, we got a bad hailstorm, and you get those cold fronts that come through, and they can make microbursts, bad thunderstorms that'll produce 40, 50 mile an hour wind and it'll blow everything down. If that happens, then I can always double up in the fall. Instead of planting the 5, I'll plant 10. Vice versa. If we lost one in the fall because of the hurricane, I can always double up in the spring.
All right. So how much poundage?
Our goal is 5,000 pounds a year. That's what the total. When you fill up the barn completely, from rafters to the floor to ceiling, you get about 5,000 pounds of tobacco, and that's what we shoot for.
Amazing. All right. So this is year round. This is even though you do 2 crops, you got going stuff.
And that's the way we want it. It's much easier to work when you got your guys that are here and employed year round.
So we're in the shipping container. I'm not going to Nicaragua. You're not going to Nicaragua. We're gonna get on a plane for that. We're still not done. So these go over there. What happens next?
So this container will get exported, and it'll be received in Nicaragua by the J.C. Newman Cigar Company. They'll go through it and they'll sort wrappers that will be used for the American cigars, which are rolled in Tampa. They'll age it, they'll ferment it, they'll strip it, sort it, bring it back into the country, and roll the Americans. Filler will go to the Drew Estate plant factory, where they're going to make FSG cigars. And then we also use filler at a factory called Aganorsa, and they make our Corona 20th and 25th anniversaries.
And then, is there anything left over? Do you bring some of that back?
So, the cigars, absolutely. That's the end product. That's the game. So we bring that back. And also, every now and then, we'll take a container and we'll actually ship tobacco to Davidoff, where they make a lot of special edition cigars for us.
Wow. So it is just nonstop import.
Yeah.
So you really are in the import-export business.
Yeah, on a small way. But at the end of the day, it's all about having unique cigars that we can offer to our customers in our stores and just bring back what I like to call like a lost ingredient, Florida sun-grown tobacco.
Where'd you get Florida sun-grown? I mean, obviously because of where we are, right?
It's perfect, right? It describes what we're doing.
You ever say something and as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you're like, Where's Grant? You know, when is the 4th of July?
Yeah,
why is it Florida
right?
Sun Grown?
That's why we came up with it.
When you look around,
Mhm.
you see what you've done, because everybody wants to have tangible, you know, I did this and this. When you look around, you're in this farm, beautiful area, you're employing people. How does that make you feel?
Well, I'm proud that we could bring back something in a small way, just a little piece of history that there was a gap. And I like bringing back that historical product. And I always use the analogy, it's like being in Detroit and having the last car factory close up. We don't want that to happen. Being in Milwaukee and the last brewery closing down, or being in Kentucky and having the last distillery closed down. No one wants to see that. So we want to just keep that little bit of history going. Florida is a cigar state. I mean, you got the cigar city of Tampa, you got Miami. It's part of our culture, and it's really important for us. That was the missing part of the culture, was the farming aspect. So we wanted to bring that back.
Before I let you go, I saw a tractor out there. You still get on that tractor?
Of course.
Now, little known fact, 3-time tractor champion, tractor driving champion.
Yep. Yeah, when I was in high school, Future Farmers of America. By the way, if you have parents out there and your kids ever want to join the Future Farmers of America, it's a great program. I was really into Future Farmers of America when I was a kid. And yeah, I was the 3-time state champion tractor driver at the FFA.
Now, why only 3 times?
Because they wouldn't let me compete in my senior year because I won too many times.
See that?